Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today, our friend Eric, he sent me an email. He says he's 36 years old, he's 5'3", he weighs about 125 to 130 pounds, depending on the day. He's been training in martial science, interesting choice of words, for about 30 years. I've never competed, but always wanted to. I've been fearfully awaiting the day that I reach a state of near perfect conditioning and technique. You will not. But that just seems to get further away. No wonder, because that does not exist. A lot of people out there have this idea that they're going to train to fight until they feel ready, until they get to that point where they're perfect. And you're never going to get perfect if you don't fight. I always say your first 10 fights are going to suck, because that's when you're learning how to fight. You can train for 30 years in the gym, and your first fight is still going to suck. You could win that fight, and it's still going to suck, because you're going to make a lot of silly mistakes. You're going to do a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing. The first 10 are absolutely the worst. They're necessary experiences. Essentially, that is part of the training. If all you do is be a gym rat and expect that to be enough to be a great competitor without actually practicing competing, then you're missing out. It's very similar to how there are a lot of martial arts styles out there who never compete. They don't spar, and they're kind of shocked when they learn they don't actually know how to fight. Like, who knew? Sparring, laying hands on another person who's not cooperating, is an integral part of learning how to fight. Similarly, learning how to compete requires actual competition. There are so many variables in a competition that simply do not exist in the gym, and you cannot accurately emulate them in a gym. And in order to get that experience, you have to have that experience. But there's a lot more to this question. Let's read on. So Eric says, I am totally clueless as to what to do, so I've been trying to reach any competent coach. I'm homeless and really at a loss, but I do have a present goal. I want to add 30 pounds minimum of muscle to my body, and I want to compete in at least one full contact tournament. What can I do? Man, this is interesting. You're homeless, and it seems your primary goals have nothing to do with resolving that issue. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. Now, I am not judging your priorities. I am pondering them, however. So, if you're okay being homeless, all right, cool. More power to you. And you might be thinking, well, I'm in a state of my life where I don't have a great deal of control over this because of outside circumstances. I understand that. I can appreciate that. Now let's look at these goals. You want to put on 30 pounds of muscle. What can you do? Putting on muscle is expensive. It's very expensive. It requires a lot of eating. And if you're 130 pounds, lean, sounds like it, and you want to put on 30 pounds of lean muscle, that's a significant percentage of your body weight right now you want to increase. That's like what Bruce Lee did for his role in Enter the Dragon. He bulked up from about 130 pounds to about 160 pounds, something like that. Put on about 30 pounds of muscle for that role specifically, because he wanted to have that physically intimidating presence for that movie that he didn't have in the other films as much. Now, he was always fit, he was always shredded, but man, look at him in Enter the Dragon. That dude is extra ripped, extra shredded in that movie, because he was bigger, a lot bigger than he was in his other films. And he wrote somewhat about how after that film he decided to try to cut down because he didn't like the way he felt performance-wise. And what did Bruce Lee do to pack on those pounds? He did some crazy stuff. One thing I read about was he made protein shakes out of raw beef. Like, whey protein shakes didn't exist back then. They fed whey to pigs, and sometime later an entrepreneur had this idea, hey, instead of selling this cheap as what did I just say? Pig feed, let's sell it to bodybuilders as a supplement, because it's pure protein, basically. That's what they want. So let's sell it to them. And they made tremendous amounts of profits. But yeah, that didn't exist in the days of Bruce Lee, so he made these weird shakes out of raw beef. I would not recommend that. One thing he did not understand is protein assimilation and the role cooking plays in that. When you cook meat, it breaks down the collagen in the cells, which allows the release of the protein. It makes it much more easily digestible. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. Putting on weight is expensive. It's expensive. Bruce Lee had a bunch of money, so he was able to import the finest beef for his raw beef shakes, which again I would not recommend, but it is an interesting historical note right there. I made a video about what I eat in a day a few years ago, and I eat a lot because I move a lot. And if I don't eat a lot, I shrink. I lose weight very quickly because I expend a bunch of calories in the day when I train. Excuse me, burping right now because I just ate something. Because I'm eating all the time. If I'm not training, I'm eating. Because if I don't, I shrink. And that's an expensive process. It's not cheap. So I put up this video about what I eat in a day, and I got a bunch of comments like, man, I can't afford to eat that much food. That's like a whole week of eating for me. Yeah. To level with you as much as I can. If you want to put on lean muscle, it's expensive. It is an expensive process. It's not cheap. There are cheaper options. Like, you don't have to eat super expensive prime cuts of meat every day. You can go with some much cheaper options. But at the end of the day, the sheer volume of eating is expensive. I bring this up because you mentioned you're homeless. And if you're homeless, you probably don't have a lot of disposable income. So you are going to have to make some changes in your life in order to get that kind of disposable income. I don't know your situation. I don't know your employment potential right now. I don't know your earning potential right now. You do. That is the first thing I would look at. Make some changes so that you can afford these differences in your diet that you need to put on that kind of weight. Maybe it's a simple solution like go out and look for a job. Maybe it's a complicated one because there aren't any jobs available in your field at this time. I don't know. You know. Now, instead of focusing on what you can't do, because it sounds like there's a lot right now you can't do, focus on what you can, because that is what will get you where you need to be ultimately, and nothing else will. Focus on what you can do. All right, you want to compete. You want to compete to have that experience in at least one full contact tournament. What can you do? Well, find out. You have access to the internet. I know that because you sent me an email. You're homeless, but you have internet access. Use the internet to find out what the tournaments in your area are. What are the venues of competition? What do you need to do to meet whatever standards that organization has? Contact them. And they will set you on the path that you need to follow. They will tell you what you need to do. And then you will focus on what you can do and what you will do. So get to eating, my friend, and if that is a practical impossibility right now, get to earning so that you can. Aquí estamos en la lucha, something the folks of Argentina often said to me. We're here in the struggle. Here we are in the fight. And they would often say this as they were working. I would see a lot of bricklayers laying bricks, building houses in Argentina, and as I walked by, I would say, hey, how's it going? They would say, here we are in the struggle. Here we are in the fight. Meaning, here we are working. This is our life. This is what we do. Life is a fight, my friends. Life is a struggle. It's not meant to be easy. Gains, especially significant gains, like 30 pounds of lean muscle, don't come easy. They are expensive. Expensive in terms of money and expensive in terms of effort. Here we are in the struggle, my friends. Here we are in the fight. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.